You probably know that the body of an athlete is quite different from that of an ordinary person. Let's take a look at the heart muscle. An ordinary person who does not do sports has a heart that pumps about 60 milliliters of blood per contraction. What can't be said about a professional athlete because this indicator can reach 200 milliliters for one contraction. That is more than 3 times. Take, for example, the volume of pumped blood per minute. In an ordinary person, it will be about 5 liters of blood. But if we take a professional athlete, his system can be accelerated to 40 liters per minute. However, it should be understood that it will approximately correspond to 200 beats per minute. And this, even for a professional athlete, is an extreme and short-term load. What other changes occur in the body and heart of a professional athlete? Is it true that professional athletes live less than non-professional athletes or people who don't do sports at all? After all, there is an opinion that high-performance sports do not improve our health, but only ruin our bodies. In this video, we will analyze these questions. So watch it till the end, and you can find out what awaits you if you do sports professionally. Or, if you are already doing sports professionally, you will understand where things are going, so it will be very interesting and useful. Let's get started. By the way, be sure to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell. Do not miss our new videos. So when we train, what do we want to accomplish? We want to get the body to adapt to the load. We get our muscles to adapt, we get our lungs to adapt, and we get our heart to adapt as well. The heart can adapt in different ways, but most often experts talk about specific hypertrophy of the left ventricle of the heart. There are 2 types of cardiac hypertrophy: L hypertrophy and D hypertrophy. L hypertrophy is an increase in the internal volume of the heart, while D hypertrophy is an increase in the thickness of the heart walls. And these are 2 different processes. If we take athletes and categorize them into groups, we see the following. The greatest hypertrophy of the heart occurs in those athletes who are engaged in endurance activities. This is, for example, long-distance running or long-distance cycling. Well, let's break down the difference between L hypertrophy and D hypertrophy. If we take L hypertrophy, this type is stimulated primarily by long-distance training. This is training at a heart rate that is in the range of up to 150 beats per minute. Although this is all highly individualized, it can differ from person to person. It depends on age and more than that. But in general, it is an aerobic cardio workout that does not go to the anaerobic threshold. That is, we are running, but not very fast. The muscles are racing our blood, and the heart starts to stretch nicely from this blood flow. Subsequently, traces of this stretching remain, and the heart will consequently increase in volume. In this way, it can be enlarged up to 40%. But what is the good of L hypertrophy, and why is it preferable and a healthy option? It increases the elasticity of our blood vessels and heart, which is not the case with D hypertrophy. It is primarily stimulated when we exercise at a level that meets our maximum anaerobic threshold, that is, a heart rate of 150 and above. This is all individual and quite approximate, but in general, it is a state of physical limit. That's when we, for example, started running at maximum speed. We ran for several minutes and squeezed out of ourselves as much as we could. Or not only by running. It can be supersets, drop sets, a large number of exercises, and approaches with minimal rest between them. As a result, the heart doesn't have those pauses to have time to fully open up. It doesn't relax. It doesn't rest in those pauses. And what is known as a diastole effect begins to occur. Local acidification will occur in our myocardium and provoke stimulating growth of myofibrils, D hypertrophy. So we can either grow by elasticity or we can acidify our heart, which is not a very healthy situation for it, and provoke exactly the growth of the heart walls. L hypertrophy is good, Dehypertrophy is bad. That's why it is not recommended to exceed this very anaerobic threshold for more than 3 minutes. If you have a fitness bracelet, or if you measure your heart rate yourself, make sure that it does not rise too high for long. And if it has already risen, it is recommended to reduce the intensity a bit to give our heart a rest. From a medical point of view, any hypertrophy of our left ventricle is considered a risk factor for pathologies. And it is professional athletes who very often go beyond this very anaerobic threshold and provoke dehypertrophy of the heart muscle. That is why experts often say that if you have formed an athlete's heart, you must be physically active for the rest of your life. That is, once you've been a professional athlete, you can no longer afford to relax. Because for such a person, a sedentary lifestyle will be more destructive than for a person who has never practiced sports. That's how insidious and dramatic it is, but it's our biological given. And former athletes who have moved to a sedentary lifestyle very often have high blood pressure. Hypertension is the foundation that drags down a huge number of other ailments. And then there is another question. Why does it sometimes happen that professional athletes die right in the prime of life, at the peak of their form? It's not a widespread phenomenon, but sometimes it happens. Why? Scientists are concerned about this question and collected certain statistics, and found out the following. The main reason for such deaths of athletes at the peak of their form is genetic diseases. In particular, it is the so-called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and on it, strange as it may seem, as much as 36% of all known cases of death of a professional athlete. This is a fairly rare disease, and it is unique in that it is one of the few diseases in which sports are categorically contradicted. Yes, there are not so many such diseases, but there is a list. That is, a person who was initially contraindicated to sports, but he gave extreme loads to his body. And how often does this disease generally occur? As I said, it's very rare. It's only 1 case per 500 people. Let's take the statistics further. The second place is 17% of deaths, which come from various anomalies of coronary arteries. And this is also a genetic and hereditary disease, also quite rare. So again, it's that rare contraindication to playing sports that shows up in cases of extreme exertion. So if we take high-performance sports, often such athletes do have changes in the heart. In the case of complete refusal of training, they often develop hypertension. But this thing is solvable, again, by preventative exercise. Therefore, it is not surprising that often professional athletes continue to be active in sports at 50, 60, and even 70 years old. And if we do sports for the sake of health and well-being, nothing dramatic will happen for us. By the way, write in the comments, how do you do sports? For health or more professionally? For the sake of achievements? Share. It will be interesting. And now, I highly recommend you watch my other video where I tell you what happens if you take in protein every day. The link to the video just appeared on the screen, and the link's also in the description, and I've pinned it in the top comment. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. I'll see you in the video about protein.